and welcome back to Top Flight Unfiltered with me, Stacey Smith, and I'm joined by the lovely Chris Parr. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah, good. Not only do we have Chris joining us here today, but we have the pleasure of Dr. Greg Whyte on the show today from YouPerform. Now, if you don't know, all of our top flight races this year, we are partnering up with YouPerform, where all of our winners will actually receive a collagen pack from YouPerform. So I would like to welcome Greg to the show. Hello, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
That's all right. I'll probably dive straight in, Greg, and get started with all things and everything collagen, because my goodness, it is a fascinating world. And before talking with you and your team, I admitted to them that I had researched collagen so much, and it's a bit of a minefield because there's type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is marine collagen good? Do you need this type of, and it was hydrolyzed. There's so many things to it. So with you being the founder of it, would you please give a little bit of an overview or rundown of how you launched YouPerform, why you did it, and what it's all about?
Well, that's quite a big start. But I mean, to give you my background, I was an Olympian and a world and European medalist. So as an athlete, I used to compete with our other co-founder, a lad called James Greenwell. As with all athletes, we spent a career fundamentally being injured. I was a modern pentathlete, so did 5 sports: running, swimming, shooting, fencing, and show jumping. So you can imagine the injury prevalence that you get in a sport like that. And effectively what we were always doing was searching for a way in which that we could reduce injury in the first place, so prevent injury, which is really the sort of the focus, but then also how we can accelerate recovery if we do get injured. And the vast majority of those injuries come from connective tissue. And in our search across the science disciplines, what we came into was collagen, a really new product at the time. It's only been around about since 2000 that we could actually extract collagen and effectively use it as a supplement. So it's a really new product on the market. Most people will see collagen around things like beauty, in particularly for hair, nails, and skin. But effectively, collagen it's the third. It effectively constitutes a third of total body protein. So it's the most abundant protein in the body. And its role really is in connective tissue. Effectively, it acts as a scaffold. And that scaffolding allows protein to be built around it. So where we see most of it, obviously, hair, nails, and skin are good examples of that. But actually, for the athlete, it's around things like muscle, its tendon, and its ligaments. And so effectively, evolving from there, we discovered collagen, or we found collagen. There is a plethora of scientific research in the area, particularly around musculotendinous and ligament injury and its importance in recovery from those injuries. And so effectively we launched YouPerform around about 6 years ago now, which really focuses on collagen and collagen content in a variety of different ways, in tablets, in gels, in protein powder, in order just to target that prevention of injury, and then critically, if you are injured, to try and accelerate that recovery from injury.
Thank you for that very thorough explanation. So, so you actually were an Olympian and you've experienced all those hardships of injuries themselves. Is it just for taken during an injury process, or is it something that maybe should be taken as part of a normal supplement regime? A little bit like, I guess, vitamin D. We lack it in the UK, so it's recommended that a lot of athletes, even non-athletes, are taking vitamin D throughout the year. Is that the same as collagen as well, or is it something that you only take when you're injured?
No, I think, what's absolutely critically important here is that prevention is better than cure. And that goes across life. And I think, sadly, what we have is we do have this mentality in the UK that effectively free at the point of care medical services gives us this idea that what we should do is just wait until we get sick or wait until we get injured, and then we'll try and do something about it. As an athlete, what you want to do is reduce your time on the injured roster. You want to prevent that injury. And if you think about it, what we are constantly doing is we're constantly turning over tissue in general. So we understand muscle because we can actually feel muscle damage when we do a heavy session, when we suddenly do our first track session, for example, of the season, and we can't walk for 3 days after it because of calf pain and Achilles pain. Fundamentally, what we do need to do is make sure that we take a look at every way we can prevent injury. Now, some of those things we know and we understand well, things like strength training, things like flexibility, mobility, things like progressive overload in training so that we don't actually overload the tissue too dramatically. But also behind that actually is nutrition, and nutrition is critically important to support those processes. So most of us understand the importance of things like whey protein in improving or certainly improving recovery from muscle damage. But collagen is integral to that. And certainly what we should be doing is looking at including collagen in our diet on a continual basis in order to focus on this prevention piece. And that is particularly true as we age. So effectively, as sadly as most things, we peak around our mid-20s when it comes to just about everything in life. But certainly when it comes to collagen, I know, but tell me about it. But what we see is we see a reduction in collagen, and that reduction is around about 1% per year.
From the age of 20?
From the mid-20s,
right?
From the mid-20s, it starts to decline. And then, of course, if you add on top of that, if you are very active, if you're an athlete, then what you are doing is you're breaking it down at a faster rate. Now, of course, don't forget, we are synthesizing it ourselves. We are producing collagen on a continual basis. But invariably, we do get a loss over time. And for women, that loss is dramatically increased during the menopause, around about a 30% reduction in collagen. And that really is demonstrated in fine lines and wrinkles. Most women who've been through menopause will understand that all of a sudden, where their face didn't have fine lines and wrinkles before menopause, all of a sudden they appear. Now that is collagen related. It's connective tissue, which is what causes that. So in the face of this fall in collagen and the imposition of heavy training on top of it, we are turning over collagen at a very fast rate. And so therefore it's really important that what we do is that we ensure that we top up that collagen to make sure that we can actually maintain it and therefore improve our resistance to injury.
Understood. And now the YouPerform, it's a liquid collagen. Is that on purpose? Is that because it is absorbed better in the body via a liquid than, say, a topical or tablet form?
So we've got various forms. So we actually have got a tablet form. We've got a gel form. Our whey protein has got collagen in it. Effectively, it's just, to some extent, it's one size doesn't fit all. Some people hate gels. And interesting enough, the gel is probably where we spent our most of our time perfecting, because gels can be absolutely horrendous, as most people have experienced, I'm sure. And we worked incredibly hard, particularly on taste, because palatability is really important. But that said, some people don't like gels, and so therefore you've got the option of tablets, but you've also got the option of collagen inside the whey protein as well. So effectively, what it gives you a toolkit. And to some extent, the gels, for me, the gels are not necessarily the best product, but they're certainly my favorite product. Simply because they're so convenient. Is I just chuck a gel in my bag.
Yeah.
Following a session, I can use the gel.
I've tried them. I've got a couple of boxes there, so I do take them, and they are a very particular taste. But actually, I quite like them. But in terms of taking collagen, in the timing of that during the day, is there a particular time to take these supplements? Is it after a really hard session? Is it before bedtime? When is maybe the best time to take collagen?
It's a really interesting question, because it's one of those questions that is debated much in science. It sort of, if we talk generally about protein, is that, when should we be taking protein, or how much protein should we be taking? Well, when it comes to protein, general recommendations 0.8 of a gram per kilogram per day, kilogram body mass per day. In athletes, generally we would double that to somewhere in the region of about 1.5 grams per kilogram body mass per day. And then the question is, when is the best time to take that? Well, actually, to some extent, what we do know is that immediately post-exercise, there is this open window opportunity where we can increase the uptake and kickstart the repair process to some extent. But equally, what we can do is we can actually spread it across the day. And I think critically for many people, that they might struggle to fit it in. And so what you don't want to do is create anxiety about when you should be taking it. But certainly the rule of thumb would be that with collagen is you take it as close to exercise as possible. Immediately post-exercise is my personal preference. Some would say that pre-exercise or during exercise can be beneficial. To some extent, the debate is out on that. But I think it's about convenience and making sure you get the right amount. And when it comes to collagen, it's somewhere in the region of about 8 grams per day seems to be the sweet spot. Now, you can take more. It's not contraindicated to take more, but you're just spending money on something you don't necessarily need.
Yeah, got you. And do you tend to see that it's more effective for certain particular sports or particular activities? I'm thinking endurance versus strength athletes. Is there a particular activity where actually you've seen better results in a particular sport, or is it every athlete out there?
I think the answer to that is generally it's good for any sport, because any sport that causes damage, and fundamentally physical activity, exercise and sport, its raison d'etre is to cause damage, because it damages the start of that adaptive process. So in general, that is all sports. I think if I'm talking about the science, I would say that the vast majority of the science when it comes to rehabilitation from injury, the vast majority of that science is in endurance athletes, and it's been focused around classic injury sites like patella tendon, Achilles tendinopathies, and primarily in endurance-based athletes. But that said, the physiology of a strength athlete is no different fundamentally to the physiology of an endurance athlete. So whilst the amount of data is not necessarily available in strength sport, there's no reason to believe that it wouldn't work as well in strength as it does in endurance.
Understood. Right. Were you going to ask something, Chris?
Yeah, you kept coming up with all the questions there
before
I was getting to them.
Sorry.
No, it was really interesting, because like you said, all the way back at the start, I think when you say collagen, most people do think of those beauty type treatments, or you'll see shampoos that have got it in. So when I started to become aware of this, because there's obviously you've done some really good marketing, it looks really good, and you've got athletes involved, and at first I was thinking, what is this like? How is this translated from one to the other? So yeah, you've done very well in breaking that down for us, which is great. So a few questions then. One would be to do with like general diet. So we produce this naturally as well, less and less as we're getting older. Are we picking up in our diet as well, or is this something that actually it needs supplementation, or you're not gonna catch that? Obviously, when people look at protein, they might say, "Oh, look, well, I'll just eat more chicken and I'll space it out across the day," or whatever. But can you pick it up, or are we talking about like this needs to be a base level supplementation all year, and then some form of load, like additional load, if you have picked up some sort of injury niggle?
Yeah, yes. I mean, hopefully you won't pick up the injury, but yes is the answer to that, in the sense that I mean, it's a really interesting question, because I think generally, look, my attitude is, look, you don't need supplements. But when I say you don't need supplements if you've got a healthy, balanced diet, you have got optimal recovery, you have got an optimal training program, which has got everything right about it. And so fundamentally, if you live in utopia and you are a unicorn, then the likelihood is that you don't necessarily need supplements. The fact is that we live here in the UK. You've identified the issue of vitamin D, particularly during the winter months. We've got something called seasonal effectiveness disorder, so SADS, that we often commonly suffer from in the UK. There are good reasons, there are good indications. And for me, what the key to supplementation is to make sure that it's indicated. In other words, why you take reason to take it. So, for example, in endurance sport, we've published a whole host of work on things like iron supplementation. Now, there is good indication for iron supplementation in certain athletes. Now, the question is, should every athlete be taking iron? Well, the answer to that is no, because there's no general indication across the piece. When it comes to things like protein and when it comes to things like collagen, what we do know is that irrespective of our sex, irrespective of what type of activity we're doing, we are damaging muscle. And so therefore what we need to do is actually provide the nutrients that are required to assist that recovery process so that we can continue training hard and not reduce this, or effectively get a reversal of that progressive overload. So and then you look at that and you think, well, can I get it from my food? Well, without any shadow of doubt, when it comes to protein, yes, you can. But what you do have to remember is that it also comes with a calorie load. So if we're trying to weight manage, that will make a big difference in that area. Add on top of that, collagen itself, we can actually get nutritionally from foodstuffs. Really quite difficult to do. We can increase the synthesis of collagen endogenously. Things like vitamin C actually increase the synthesis of collagen. But during those periods where we've got very heavy training periods, where we are inducing a significant amount of damage, then for me, what we're talking about there is indication. There is indication to supplement, to support that damage so that we can avoid injury and enhance performance.
Yeah, so I and Stacey and a lot of people coming to watch this episode will be coming from a middle distance to long distance road running track background. A lot will be they'll be listening to what you're saying then thinking, oh, actually this applies to me. I'm constantly injured, right? So I'm thinking, oh, I should have had these the day that, like about 6 weeks ago, I did a first hill session in about 2 years, and then my butt cheeks were killing us for a few days. And then I ended up picking up a calf injury, very busy with work for like a month, traveling around, so didn't actually have the time to have proper nutrition, lots of service stations. Probably not the best planned nutrition because I was quite busy. Really, I should have been planning a little bit better and getting the more protein shakes in there, getting collagen supplements or whatever it was. What would something like what would if I was to go away now and go, okay, I'm going to get some of this, how much should I get? What should I be doing if I just want to plan this into my program to just have all the time, all year? And then how much do I need to get if there's an injury and it's like, yeah, okay, I need to do a little bit more. So what's the general dose? How much are the products if we're just going to get them straight off the website? Yeah, I'll let you take up with that.
Well, okay, I mean, and this sounds like an anti-sales message, okay? But what you've just described there is a program which requires significant attention. And what collagen and whey protein and supplements are not, is they are not Harry Potter's wand. So they're not suddenly going to transform your program into something spectacular just because you take a gel once daily. So I think, what I personally would say is that what you want to do is step back and ensure that what really matters here is what underpins it. So if you think about it in the analogy of a cake, is that the supplements effectively are the icing on the cake. But if your cake is utterly inedible, it doesn't matter how good that icing is or how thick you lay it on. The bottom line is you're not going to eat it. Okay. And I think that's the key. So to my mind, I think the first thing that you must do is that you must step back. You've answered the first question in the sense that you did your first hill session in 2 years. And I bet you absolutely smashed out that hill session. Did far too many reps, too long a rep, too fast a pace. And you probably added some downhill efforts into it as well. So you had eccentric loading, which meant you could hardly walk for 2 days. Now that, to some extent, that's a planning issue. and what, when it comes to I'm not going to go, by the way. I think it's critically important. What we have to remember is that what we're trying to do is take a look at the program. And this is why, to my mind, one of the big problems we've got is the fact that people think that buying supplements substitutes paying for a coach. A good coach will sort out your program, and they will make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time, in the right volume, at the right speed, etc. And that really is what matters. Once you've got that right, what you can then do is you can then layer on top of that. And part of that cake is obviously your baseline nutrition. What you eat on a daily basis is hydration. The one missing link, which the vast majority of athletes ignore because they think they don't need it, and that is recovery. Optimizing recovery around things like sleep, optimizing psychological recovery as well as physiological recovery. All of those things, that if you can get all of those pieces together, then laying on supplements at the right time, of the right type, of the right quantity, they can have a profoundly significant impact on your performance overall. So I think the answer to your question is get the cake mix first, and then think about what you're putting on top of it.
Oh yeah, I've always said the same, really. Like, it's, people talk about the 0.1%ers, but you've got to get the 99.9% right first before the 0.1s. But yeah, but I guess back to like the general product, if you could, I seen the boxes that we gave to the athletes who won. A standard box, is that like a month's supply? Is it something that we're having daily, or is it a 3-month thing?
Yeah.
They're a month.
So that is, the box is effectively a month's supply. It's 8 grams of collagen in each of those gels, and the recommendation generally is 8 grams a day, and so therefore you've got a daily dose. Now I think, and again, if you take a look at the science, particularly when it comes to injury, when you take a look at the science, the vast majority of science are using 8 grams, 8-gram doses. Not superseding that. Now, some people do say, you take lots and lots of collagen, and then what it will do is it'll increase the speed of recovery. We don't have the evidence to support that. So what I would say is that effectively what you're looking at is 8 grams a day, which effectively is just a maintenance dose. Now, if you wrap that around a very structured, well-planned program, then what you are hoping is that you won't get injured during that process. If you do get injured, then what's critical at that point is you continue to take the collagen, but you're also doing an awful lot of other things. And one of the key things to that is actually that to some extent, if you think about protein, the important thing is the signaling. It needs to be signals. Where is it going to? And so actually, when it comes to injury, actually the rehab, the physical rehab, is just as, again, taking a gel a day and sitting at home watching Netflix is not going to accelerate the recovery of your injury. So it's a planned, structured process, of which the addition of supplements, collagen being one of those, will support the acceleration of that recovery phase.
Understood. Right. So I think you've explained everything so well. Have you got any final questions? I've got a couple of quick ones.
I guess, yeah, the only thing I was going to clarify there was obviously the 8 grams you've explained there, but when you said that there's a deterioration with age, so the 8 grams still, is that just like, it doesn't matter whether somebody's 60 or whatever, there's only so much you can do, you're just trying to give your body that little extra help, but there's no real benefit in going, okay, well, you're now 70, so we need to give you even more to overload. It's just stick with that 8 grams. That's all we've got evidence for.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because it's a steady decline. It's 1% per year on average, and so therefore, and that's across the lifespan. The only sort of key issue there, as we've spoken about, is the menopause in women. And I think also if you are later, if you're coming to this later in life, and you are at significant risk of injury, or you're repetitively injured, I mean, again, the science doesn't necessarily support this, or we've not seen the science to support this. But what you could do is potentially increase the load. But I would say generally it is 8 grams a day across the lifespan, and that may change slightly if you are a woman who is peri or postmenopausal.
Okay. Understood. And we do have such a rise of athletes that are either premenopausal or going through menopause or just afterwards as well. You know, the increase in women in sport, especially that those age brackets there are really increasing. So that will really help some of our female athletes to understand that as well, because we do have a lot of women that compete in top flight of all ages, which is great to see, isn't it? As we wrap up, Greg, I'm going to ask you a couple of quick ones, hopefully. So the first one, what is your personal non-negotiable daily habit?
Sleep.
Sleep. Okay. It's a good one, and it's a simple one, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's the one thing that a lot of people give up on, and it's the one thing that a lot of people have got a lot of excuses for. But fundamentally, the restorative sleep hypothesis, a lot of that adaptation is occurring during sleep. And it's not about length of sleep; it's about quality of sleep. That's what really matters.
Good advice. What is one myth in sports science you wish would disappear?
Maximum heart rate is 220 minus your age.
Yeah,
So annoying, isn't it?
that is annoying. Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
And what I would say on that is just it creates more confusion than it solves. It is not difficult to do a heart rate max test if you are interested in it. So your heart rate max is what your maximum heart rate is.
Yep.
Simple.
And that's it. Simple.
So measure it.
If you could give one piece of advice, because we do have a lot of juniors as well that get involved in our races, especially the track meets. If there's any advice that you have to young athletes out there, what would it be?
Recovery is as important as training. You get recovery wrong and your performance will reduce.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Greg Whyte. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. And like we mentioned, all of our winners in top flight this year will receive some YouPerform supplementation for collagen. If you do fancy it, do get yourself involved in top flight. Greg, it has been an absolute pleasure. Chris, thank you so much. And please do join us on the next Top Flight Unfiltered.